Thank you for joining us. This is a special session on the high-level panel discussion themed Africa towards 2063 and beyond. And of course, to discuss the outcome of that meeting, I have with me Mr. Shinichi Kitaoka, President of JICA. I also have with me former President of Nigeria, Mr. Olusegun Obasanjo. And I also have here with me Professor Joseph Stiglitz, who's a professor and Nobel Laureate at Columbia University. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Obasanjo. Just give us, in a nutshell, tell us what this high panel discussion was all about.
We had this side event, so as it's called, to actually look at what are the issues which, of course, they do not have opportunity to discuss, which we, 5 of us on the panel, could actually look at in more detail and more closely. For instance, looking at the Africa Agenda 2063, what are the challenges? What are the opportunities? Since that was the agenda was adopted, what have changed in the African development horizon and in the world development horizon? What can we learn from Asia? What can Africa learn from Asia? And what can Asia learn from Africa?
And we're actually going to be breaking that down in the course of this discussion. So I'm just going to remain with you now. Talk us through the challenges, opportunities, and strategies for development as Africa moves towards 2063 and beyond.
Well, I think the opportunities, first of all, is that we are, as African, we have great potentials. In fact, if anything, it's our problem is untapped potentials, unfulfilled potentials. So the potentials are there. Now, what are the challenges? The resources to actually actualize our potentials, so that we stop being potential this, potential that, we become actual this and actual that. Then, of course, the world needs what we can produce. We have land to produce food. Why have we not produced? Why are we not the food production continent of the world? That we can achieve. This has the opportunity.
Interesting. Let's talk about how to tap into these potential. Now, what can Asia and Africa, of course, learn from each other? And what can and should the two regions do to boost economic, intellectual interaction and even otherwise?
Just a little bit follow-up to what he said. We just identified many issues, agendas from public health, agriculture, industrialization, and then education, so forth, a lot. But we cannot do everything at once. So we need a kind of a good strategy, comprehensive approach, prioritization strategy. And then Japan can be a very good partner, for example, to discuss together. Japan, one of the most important characteristics of Japan's international cooperation is to get together, to sit together, and to consider what will be the best policy to you, best priority. And then that's the spirit of TICAD VI here. We hold the TICAD VI here, first in African soil. And this promoted, I think, that more and more of ownership on the part of Africa and countries. So with them, we can discuss on an equal basis. And one thing which are very lucky and which is very necessary in this regard is still leadership. President Obasanjo's speech started with the importance of leadership and trusted by the people. And then with the existence of excellent leaders, And then with the spirit of assistance from Asia, like Japan, then we can make it.
Well, one of the things you discussed is what should be the priority. You did mention a number of challenges and opportunities present, and then you also mentioned leadership. Is that the priority at the moment, on making sure we get it right in that space, or is there much more we should be looking at this point in time?
In terms of urgency, certainly we have to overcome the high mortality rate about babies. And also, in that regard, JICA has started another initiative for public health, universal public health coverage, which is our commitment together with the World Bank, which is one of the important events here. And then also, in order to provide food, we have to have agriculture. Recent decline of commodity prices finally, I think, persuaded African people that we should not rely on commodity resources alone. We have to industrialize. That is his professor's specialty.
Exactly. I was actually going to come to you, Professor, on that note. Now, in what ways can Africa contribute to the future of the global community? He just rounded up by talking about industrialization. Is that all there is?
I want to follow up on what's just been said, that we are in a period of global slowdown, and natural resource prices have come down, and part of what Africa has to do is the comprehensive development strategy that will be partly based on industrialization, and really a unique moment in time when wages are rising in China. A lot of industrial jobs will be leaving China and up for grabs. And if Africa has prepared itself, has the infrastructure, has the right policy framework, then many of those jobs will be moving to Africa. And that will be part of the basis of African growth, but only part. Because even when all those jobs were to come here, there still will not, the demographic problem that the president spoke about means that there will have to be even more jobs created. So a lot of the demand will have to come from Africa. And so it's going to have to be more, there's going to have to be its own engine of economic.
Is the continent well positioned for this opportunity the professor has just talked about?
Well, what I will say is that we are preparing, whichever way you look at it. Politically, we are better today in Africa in terms of democracy and good governance than we were 30 years ago. There's no doubt about that. Socially, education, we are better today than we are, but we are not there yet.
Okay.
We talk about demographic increase. We've talked about leadership. We must talk about conflict that is still there. We must also talk about, although there have been improvement in democracy and good governance, it has not become pervasive. In fact, there is some form of resurgence now of anti-democratic propensity, if you like. So what I'm saying is that, yes, we are preparing, but we are not fully prepared.
Right.
And what do we need to be fully prepared? The issue of leadership has been mentioned. Well, the quality of leadership is improving, but it's not improved comprehensively for us to be able to say, yes, everywhere we can beat our chest and say, yes, we are there. Right. Good leaders here, good leaders there. Not only politically, in all walks of life, in politics, in the private sector, in education, in diplomatic sector, everywhere.
It's interesting you mentioned education. With this event happening on the African continent today, it is history in the making. Let's take a look at education. What do you think the continent can get out of it in terms of its relationship with Japan?
Well, education, as you said, is pivotal. They announced a new agreement where there'll be a large number of students going from Africa to Japan. The overall issue of trying to increase the quality as well as the quantity of education in Africa, I think, is absolutely imperative. There has been a broadening of literacy. The real question now is making sure that the skill set is the kind of skill set that will be required for modern manufacturing and modern jobs, not only in manufacturing, but in the service sector. A lot of technology. During our discussion, there were one of the people there was President Kagame from Rwanda, and they've been particularly trying to create a high-tech center as part of their development strategy. And that's another broad aspect that I wanted to bring up earlier, which is there are a lot of focus on foreign direct investment. But I think that has to be balanced with a emphasis on growth of domestic entrepreneurship and young people, bringing them in to start their own businesses and create their own opportunities here.
Fantastic. Just on a final note, we run out of time now, Mr. Kitaoka. Just share with us what I call it the success formula or the secret formula you think Asia has employed over the years, exactly made it what I call an industrial powerhouse. Just drop a bit of a hint on what you think Africa should pick up for that. Could it be from education? Could it be from the policies that we're going to be making? Just give us a bit of that secret.
President Obasanjo picked up the word from Lee Kuan Yew that there's no secret. Actually, the most important thing is for the leaders to do right things to do and continue to do. But if I can pick up, then the devotion to education. Without education, particularly with primary education, we have to, and also middle level education, we have to provide this to the girls, because girls are not given enough opportunity to study. And if that's a very important resource which is not fully used. And then with children, boys and girls, women, and then that means you have enormous potentials, which will make Africa not the liability of the world, but the very good asset to the world.
Can I jump in here with there are two countries in Africa that have had very high rates of growth without being dependent on natural resources. There's Rwanda and Ethiopia. And in both of them, they took seriously the idea of what is called the developing state. And that was an idea that had come from East Asia, including from Singapore and also Japan.
I will just say one point.
All right.
In addition to capacity building for education and skill acquisition, there's infrastructure.
Right.
That is important.
All right then.
Power, telecommunication, transportation.
Yes.
They must be there.
Fantastic.
For us to be able to.
Fantastic. That's a very powerful way to end this discussion. Thank you so much. Well, I have been speaking with what I call a very important panelist here today, giving us an insight into meetings. Of course, we couldn't attend. I'm just going to be random. I've been speaking with Mr. Shinichi Kitaoka. He's the president of JICA, and also, of course, Mr. Olusegun Obasanjo, former president of Nigeria, and Professor Joseph Stiglitz. Here's the professor, Nobel Laureate, Columbia University. Thank you so much for joining us.